Hey, it's David. So, with the advent of 2024 came the new podcast, which you're listening to right now. Creativity, excitement, emotion. In fact, many new things came along with the advent of 2024, but we'll get there. So, prior to creativity, excitement, emotion, I assume most of you know that previous to this, I was running a podcast called the New Music Industry Podcast. And I think in 2023, I just didn't get around to publishing many episodes, and I was starting to burn out on that show. Doesn't mean I was completely burnt out on podcasting or anything like that, but it was clearly time to try something a little bit different. And so in 2024, I redirected my domain name from Music Entrepreneur HQ to my website, my personal brand at davidandrewweeb.com. We launched an event, Clean Slate, which happened in Victoria in February. And of course, the new podcast came along in January. First question is, have you been enjoying the podcast so far? I make this show for you, first and foremost. Yes, I love to talk about things that inspire me, my growth journey, what I've been learning along the way, all that kind of stuff. But I'm here to serve you. So if there's something you'd like to learn, if there's topics you'd like me to talk about, if there's people you'd like me to talk to. And on that note, some of you might be waiting for more interviews, and trust me, they're coming. There won't be any shortage of interviews on the show ultimately, because even in my weekly live stream, which is honestly where my focus is going, because those weekly live streams is where the content is created, and all those, not all of them, but most of those streams get edited and end up on the podcast. So that's where I'm concentrating. But even on those weekly live streams, I'm going to be doing more interviews. So more and more of those are going to be making their way over to the show. So hang in there if that's what you're looking for. I think we should have some really, really fun, really great interviews here coming up. When I began this show, I began recording episodes, as I recall, in summer 2023. And I was still very much living in a world of chaos. I couldn't really see it for myself, because for me, really the greatest chaos felt like it kind of came to an end in 2022. I mean, yeah, I ended up going all the way back to Calgary. So, things got kind of bad, but I felt like after that I wasn't really living in like I'd had some stability, or I'd had something under my feet. But that still really wasn't the case. And it really took until this year. I moved to Nanaimo. That was never meant to be a permanent arrangement. In fact, I kind of just went over to the island to experience it and to host the Clean Slate event. Ended up staying for 6 months, but that gave me some stability. Then moving to Surrey in July has given me even more stability, where I'm not constantly running around. But that's why I ended up recording so many episodes while I was on the go. And as you know, I scrapped or kind of archived a good chunk of those, because I'm not sure if they'll ever make the podcast. But that's how this whole thing got started. I was documenting my journey. I was telling my stories. I was covering things as they were happening. And eventually we kind of switched gears, and we are where we are today. So again, love to hear your thoughts. But from everything I've told you, I think you're probably getting the sense that I've been approaching things very differently this year in every way imaginable. Through the holidays, my tendency has often been to just power through it. Like, keep creating more content, keep making more stuff, or somehow, some way try to get ahead and create a whole bunch of episodes in advance so things would still come out while I'm taking a break. And I have to say, in most cases, neither approach worked out. And it so often happens that there's 52 weeks in a year, and I would end up publishing 48 episodes. And so somehow, some way, I would always end up missing 4 weeks. And that's what I'm vowing not to do this year. I mean, this podcast hasn't really had that issue, because when I first started it, we were publishing 5 days a week. And eventually just came down to 1 episode per week, which I honestly feel it just makes more sense for the listening audience, for you. So in thinking about how I'm going to do things differently this holiday season, I feel like the most important thing I can do for you and for myself is to come back refreshed, not hustle to try to create a whole bunch of new stuff between now and January, but maybe repurpose the episodes that I've already got. And that's what I started thinking about. And I have to admit, I really never much liked quote-unquote compilation episodes. I guess that's kind of less of a thing now, or if you're watching Netflix, you may be inclined to just skip those. But when TV was still the main form of consumption of that type of content, TV content, movie content, but especially serial TV content, sometimes there would be compilation episodes. So you'd be watching Friends. You'd be like, oh yeah, Friends is tonight at 7, so I'm going to go turn the TV on. Then you would get a compilation episode every once in a while, where it would be like, here's a clip from an earlier episode, here's another clip from another earlier episode, here's another clip from another earlier episode. If you were lucky, you got a little bit of unique stuff at the beginning and end, and maybe in the middle, but the vast majority of the episode was just like the best jokes or the best sequences as determined by the producers and directors. So I really never liked those. I think when I was younger, I didn't really mind, and then you kind of grow wise to those ways, and you're like, I don't want to watch the same episodes I've already watched. So in a way, I'm not really crazy about what I'm planning to do, and at the same time, I'm really cognizant, I'm really aware that you could post something once and maybe reach half the people, or not even, who would ultimately want to hear it, or want to see it, or want to engage with it. And content, especially stuff that took time to develop, that's actually really good, often deserves a second, third, or even fourth life, depending on what it was. So what I'm getting at is that over the course of the next 6 episodes, I'm going to be replaying the top 6 episodes from 2024. We're going to rewind and look at the most downloaded episodes from 2024. So I hope you enjoyed this sequence. I guess at the very least, it's not just a compilation. I'm not going to be bouncing around from episode to episode. And you're still going to get unique intros like this one at the top of each episode. The 6th most popular episode of 2024 was 2 ways to make it to the top. I still think this makes a really good point that you could be a driven leader type. And I don't think everyone is. I don't think necessarily everyone can become one. That's simply one of those harsh truths. But if you're not a driven leader type, because driven leader types, they make things happen and they know they can make things happen. But if that's not the kind of person you are, you might feel like, okay, I don't really stand a chance. And that's not true. And that's what this episode sheds light on. You can go and partner up and collaborate and be a part of the team of a driven leader. And for some of you, that might be more preferable. For some of you, that might mean you actually get to spend more time practicing your craft or working on the things that you want to work on versus doing all the marketing and all the business stuff. So as this episode points out, you may want to consider, if you're not a driven type, to hitch your wagon to a star. So here's 2 ways to make it to the top. Let me know how you enjoyed this. So you've heard me talk about the importance of developing your leadership in building a music career. There's no harm in anyone learning leadership principles, even if they don't one day become a leader. But what I'm recognizing is that there are actually 2 ways to make it to the top. There isn't just one. And not everyone is a driven leader type. They just aren't. So more and more I'm recognizing there isn't just one way. One way is to be a driven leader, but another way, well, we're going to cover that in this episode. So let's talk about qualities of a driven leader. What does that look like? You know, a driven leader has many qualities, so I can't really cover them all here, but I'll touch on basically 3 things that would characterize someone who's very driven. First is they're quick to go from vision to reality. They're able to take a vision and move it to reality rapidly. It's almost like they have an idea and snap, 6 months later, there it is. Maybe it's an idea for an EP or a song. Maybe it's an entire album. Probably in 6 months, I'd say they'd be able to complete an album because they're just that driven, and chances are they've got experiences and skills to back up that as well. And one of the reasons they're able to go from vision to reality so quickly is because they're able to harness their energy and focus and concentrate on the thing that they want to accomplish, not just starting it, but actually completing it, finishing it. Next is they're always looking ahead. Leader is someone who is tuned in to the needs of others, the needs of themselves, the needs of their company or business, the needs of their career. So they aren't just thinking about the things that they need to do now or complete now. Most of us end up focusing there. They're creating charts and graphs, and they have the statistics, and they're aware of next steps to take. So if there's things that are not working, their mind is already into next week or next month or next year going, this thing isn't working, we need to stop this now. And if something is working, they're already going, oh, here's how we can boost our performance next week. And because they take responsibility for others, they're anticipating the needs of others. They aren't just thinking about themselves. They're going, okay, this person is in this state of mind right now. Because of that, they might need this resource to be able to be at optimal performance. Or this team member may need to go on vacation in a couple of weeks because it's starting to look like they're a little burnt out and I've given them a little too much work. So leaders are always looking ahead. They're not just present to what's going on now, they're present of factors that are going to be affecting things in the weeks, months to come. Next, leaders are always readers. And I know some of you don't really take this seriously, but I do. I don't just listen to audios. I think that's really great. If you're listening to audiobooks and podcasts and audio programs, I also like to turn all the courses that I've purchased into audios that I can go and listen to on my phone in my car. But leaders self-educate themselves in a variety of ways. They don't just listen to audios because they know there's intense and immense value in reading as well. So I always read. I like to read. Sometimes I don't get to reading as much as I would like to read, but I still read all the time. And really all you got to do, you could be the worst at reading in the world, and that's really okay. All you got to do is read 2 pages and make sure whatever bookmark you're using moves to the next page every single day. That's all you got to do. If you're not sure what to read, we've suggested many books through the years, including my own. You might want to check out our recommended resources and tools. So those are some of the qualities that a leader would possess, a driven leader. Not the only qualities, there definitely are others, but those are some of the ones that I would look for. Okay, so what if you're someone that doesn't possess these qualities, and in fact, no matter how hard you try to develop yourself, you're just not getting there? Well, some of us are pretty average and ordinary. And you know what? That's not really a bad thing to admit. It's really better to have clarity on who you are than to delude yourself. A lot of people love to delude themselves. They think they're better in pretty much every area of life. This is what the statistics show, that people think they are better drivers than others. People think they are above average looks. People think they are above average in pretty much every possible way they can think of. And that's not possible because average is average. So what's available to someone who wants to make it to the top but is not a driven leader? What you can do is hitch your wagon to a star. And that means to go and find the driven leaders and hitch your wagon to them. Honestly, I'm surprised that a lot of people don't do this because they're convinced that they are an e-commerce guru or a content marketing ninja or a Facebook wizard of some kind, and many times they're mistaken in their assumptions. Everyone's just trying to do their own thing. They want to be known for their blog or their podcast or their music or their book or their course, but they don't take things from vision to reality very quickly, or they don't finish many things. Now, I have many unfinished projects, but I've finished plenty, including 7 books and 44 songs that I've published and much, much more. So if you're not in that habit, and you don't find that you're someone who can take a vision and turn it into reality very quickly, you need to go and find yourself a driven leader, because they're going somewhere, right? And you can go with them. All you have to do is be loyal to them and serve them. Do you think every bass player was a driven leader? Okay, I'm poking at bass players a little bit. I jest. But some of us are average. Some of us are ordinary. And that's okay. We just need to find a leader that we can hitch our wagon to. So those are the two ways to make it to the top, even if you're not a driven leader. Unlock the secrets to skyrocketing your productivity, boosting performance, and maximizing profits with my latest premium guide, the Productivity, Performance, and Profits Blackbook. Tailored for independent artists and entrepreneurs, this comprehensive resource is your roadmap to turning ideas into reality. Say goodbye to abandoned projects collecting dust on your shelves or buried in your hard drives. It's time to bring your vision to life. Grab your free copy of the Productivity, Performance, and Profits Blackbook now at davidandrewweeb.com/blackbook. That's WIEBE. Don't miss out on the key to unlocking your success.